Sign 1. You faced hard battles early in life. From the very first moments of your childhood, storms seemed to gather around you, while others played carefree. You were thrown into battles far too heavy for young shoulders. Trauma, rejection, betrayal, or silent nights where tears became your only companion. Yet isn't it strange that you survived situations where statistics said you should have fallen, that you carried wounds that could have crushed your spirit, but somehow you still rose? This is not the curse of misfortune, it is the mark of divine selection. As Psalm 34 contra 19 declares, "Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivereth him out of them all." Could it be that your survival itself was the announcement of your chosenness? And when you reflect on those moments, do you not see the invisible hand guiding you, as though your very existence was part of a cosmic plan written long before you were born? Each scar became not just evidence of pain, but a signature of heaven in your life. The enemy saw your potential before you could even spell the word destiny. Just as Pharaoh issued a decree to kill Hebrew infants out of fear of their future, darkness tried to strangle your light before it could fully burn. Yet, like baby Moses hidden in the basket of reeds, you were carried by unseen hands through the raging waters. Exodus, Gardikulmaten records. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. If God could raise a deliverer from the midst of an enemy's palace, why would he not preserve you for the purpose he planted before time began? When you think about it, does it not amaze you how the places where you should have drowned became the very waters that carried you closer to destiny? Just as the Nile carried Moses to Pharaoh's daughter, your struggles carried you into the exact hands that God ordained. And though you were surrounded by danger, you were never consumed. Great painter Vincent van Gogh once said, "Great things are not done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together." Your pain was not random, it was brushstroke after brushstroke in the masterpiece of your calling. Does this not explain why every battle left behind both scars and strength, shaping you into a canvas that heaven itself is painting upon? Just as an orchestra tunes its instruments in chaos before the grand symphony begins. Your early battles were the discordant notes preparing you for the great crescendo of your life. Even Handel, when composing his legendary Messiah while nearly blind and bankrupt, wrote through nights of agony until the Hallelujah chorus broke forth a reminder that glory often emerges from shadows. And when the first chorus rang out, witnesses said it felt as if the heavens opened. Is that not the same sensation your soul feels now, when after so much silence, up to your spirit begins to sing again? The oak tree, while other plants bloom quickly in spring and fade, the oak digs its roots deep in silence, battling winds and storms, until it becomes a fortress of nature. Are you not like that oak? Every battle you endured as a child was forcing your roots deeper into God's soil, so that one day you would stand immovable. Jeremiah 17:8 says, "For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreadeth out her roots by the river. Her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought." Isn't this the very reflection of your life, that even in seasons of drought, you did not wither, and the deeper the roots go, the taller the tree can grow? Which means every hardship that buries you deeper is the same force lifting you higher. Even when storms bend your branches, your foundation remains unshaken, because you were planted not by chance, but by divine intention. But let us not forget the contrast of those who chose the opposite path. Take the story of King Saul, once anointed, yet consumed by envy, who turned against David rather than facing his own inner battles. His refusal to endure God's refining fire led to his downfall. And 1 Samuel 15:26 makes it clear, "Thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord hath rejected thee from being king over Israel." Doesn't his tragedy warn us that battles unyielded to God can destroy? But battles surrendered to him will crown you with destiny. Saul's jealousy became the weapon that pierced his own heart. The enemy within was deadlier than any Philistine without. And how many people around you today have fallen the same way, choosing bitterness over surrender, pride over humility, only to lose everything that once was theirs? Science itself whispers this truth. In physics, pressure does not simply crush, it creates. Diamonds are born when carbon is placed under extreme pressure and heat. Is your soul not the diamond God is shaping through the furnace of trials? Even psychologists confirm that those who face adversity young often develop resilience, unmatched by those who lived in comfort. The frequency of your spirit began resonating at a higher vibration the moment trials tried to break you. For resonance amplifies when tension is present. And now, your frequency carries authority in the unseen realm. In fact, your battles tuned your soul like an instrument. Until the sound you carry cannot be ignored, it pierces atmospheres, breaks chains, and awakens hope in others. Ordinary voices echo this reality. Maria, a humble nurse from a small village, once shared after losing both parents young, "Pain became my teacher. Without it, I would not know compassion. I would not know God's nearness." How many of you feel the same, that your brokenness turned into the very wellspring of your empathy and fire? And when Maria wipes the tears of her patients today, she is not merely performing a duty, she is ministering from scars that became sacred. Does this not remind you that your childhood pain, too, can become a balm to others? The very tears you cried became the river God now uses to water the lives of the thirsty around you. And yet, in the quiet moments of despair, did you not hear heaven whisper that you were preserved for something greater? Romans 8:28 proclaims, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose." Your very survival is the testimony that you are among the called, chosen, and preserved. When you look back, isn't it breathtaking to see how every thread of suffering was being woven into a tapestry of glory? And if he has brought you this far, what power on earth or in hell can stop the completion of what he has begun in you? So rise. Chosen one, your childhood battles were not graves, they were gateways. Every wound is a weapon now. Every scar, a seal of authenticity. You are proof that no attack could erase the blueprint of heaven over your life. Stand, because your survival was not just for you, it was for the generations that will find shelter in your strength. And when you rise, you declare to every power that tried to silence you, the one God chose cannot be stopped. Your very life is heaven's rebuttal to hell's accusations. And the time has come for you to walk boldly into the destiny written over your name. Sign 2. You never felt like you fit in. From the earliest moments of your life, there was always that unshakable sense you did not fit, no matter how hard you tried, while others moved in groups with ease. You often felt like a stranger, even in familiar rooms. Have you noticed how the laughter of the crowd never reached your soul the way it seemed to reach theirs? How the games they played felt shallow while your heart longed for something deeper? That's because you were never designed to blend into the noise. You were created as a voice, not an echo. As Deuteronomy 14 gegen 2 thunders, For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself, above all the nations that are upon the earth. Is it not striking that the very feeling of being different was never rejection, but recognition of heaven's fingerprint on you? And when you finally see this truth, doesn't it change how you interpret your entire past, that every lonely playground, every awkward silence, was a rehearsal for the stage of destiny? Chosen ones often grow up feeling like outsiders because they were sculpted for a higher design. Just as Noah was mocked for building an ark in a world that had never seen rain, you too were misunderstood because your life was aligned with a future others could not see. Genesis 6-9 says, Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations. And Noah walked with God. When people laughed at him, they weren't just mocking a man, they were mocking a prophetic assignment. Isn't that the same with you? That the ridicule you faced was proof that you were building something larger than the crowd could imagine. And when the flood finally came, the one who never fit in was the one who carried salvation. Your difference is proof of preparation. Because just like Noah, what feels like alienation today will be vindication tomorrow. Doesn't that ignite a new kind of courage inside you? In the world of art, the truth resonates. The Polish composer Frédéric Chopin, often described as melancholic and misunderstood, poured his isolation into music that pierced the heart of Europe. His nocturnes sounded like whispers from another world, notes of a soul that never fully belonged to the rooms it played in. Isn't this the story of the chosen? The loneliness you felt was not a punishment but a tuning, like strings tightened until they release a sound that carries eternity within it. And when that sound emerges, it is not just melody, it is prophecy. Every chosen one is like a nocturne dark 3, haunting, yet filled with hidden beauty. And if the world could not understand Chopin's heart until centuries later, should it surprise you that people around you still cannot comprehend the depth of your calling today? Nature itself confirms this reality. The eagle, unlike sparrows, does not gather in flocks. It soars alone, gliding at altitudes others cannot reach. Were you not like the eagle as a child, watching from a distance while the crowd busied itself in low places? Isaiah 40-31 promises, But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength, they shall mount up with wings as eagles. Could it be that your sense of not belonging was never about loneliness, but about altitude that God was preparing you to fly where the crowd could never follow? The eagle's isolation is not weakness, it is the prelude to dominion, and the higher it climbs, the smaller the noise below becomes, proving that your destiny was never meant to be grounded in the trivial, but lifted into the eternal. Doesn't this perspective shift the way you see your solitude? Yet history gives us warnings through those who tried to belong when they were called to stand apart. Think of Judas Iscariot, who walked beside Jesus, yet never embraced his true calling. His desire to blend into the power games of the priests led him to betrayal. And Matthew 27-5 records his tragic end, and he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple, and departed, and went and hanged himself. Isn't it chilling that the man closest to destiny destroyed himself by craving acceptance in the wrong circle? Doesn't that warn you that trying to fit where God never planted you will always lead to collapse? Judas reminds us that rejection from the wrong people is actually protection from destruction, because the cost of forced belonging is always your soul. And doesn't that truth explain why God had to pull you away from certain tables, even when it hurt? In science, resonance proves the same. When two frequencies are mismatched, they cannot align. One will always stand apart. You were the frequency heaven struck upon earth, and the vibrations around you could not contain it. Psychologists even note that those who feel like outsiders early in life often become innovators, leaders, and visionaries because they are forced to cultivate inner strength that the crowd never develops. And doesn't history prove this through countless reformers who began as outcasts but ended as voices that shook nations? In architecture, the cornerstone always looks out of place until the building rises, and then everyone realizes the entire structure was leaning on it. Isn't that you? The stone once rejected is the stone heaven uses as foundation. Stories of ordinary people echo the same truth. Jonathan, a quiet farm boy, once shared that he always felt strange, spending hours watching the stars instead of joining in the local games. His difference earned him mockery, but years later, he became an astronomer, mapping galaxies, showing others the wonders he always sensed. Isn't this the story of the chosen? You are mocked for what makes you different, but in time, that difference becomes the very bridge to your greatness. And like Jonathan, perhaps the very dreams that made you an outcast as a child will one day make you a guide for nations. The whispers of heaven that drew your eyes to higher things were never illusions, they were invitations. Romans 12:2 declares, "And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." Transformation is never born in the crowd, but in those who dare to stand alone. What if your feeling of not belonging was the seedbed of transformation, preparing you to carry ideas, visions, and authority that cannot be reduced to conformity? Every lonely season was heaven's architecture, carving space for your uniqueness to shine. And when that uniqueness rises, it will not merely shift a room, it will shift an era. Doesn't that stir your spirit to embrace your difference as the crown you once rejected? So rise. Chosen one, you were never called to fit into shallow patterns, you were called to lead. Stop mourning the tables that never welcomed you, because God is building a throne where you will sit and reign with Him. Stand boldly, because your separation is your preparation, and your difference is your crown. You were never meant for the crowd, you were meant to command it. And when you finally step into your place, the very people who once mocked you will recognize the glory of God that set you apart all along. Sign 3. People dislike you without a reason. From your earliest steps into the world, you may have felt the sting of rejection that came without explanation. Smiles faded when you entered a room. Whispers rose behind your back, and doors closed, though you had done nothing wrong. Why did their dislike seem so irrational, almost spiritual? Because it was never about your personality, it was about the presence you carried. As John 15:19 reveals, "If ye were of the world would love its own, but because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you." Does it not stir something deep within you to realize that rejection was not evidence of your failure, but proof of your separation for God's purpose? When you are chosen, your very existence becomes a mirror, reflecting light that forces darkness to see itself. Have you noticed how even your silence can make some uncomfortable, as though your presence itself exposes hidden motives? The reason is simple. The frequency of heaven that resonates within you creates dissonance in those unwilling to align with it. Just as Cain rose against Abel in Genesis 4-8. Cain talked with Abel his brother, and Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. Hatred was birthed not from Abel's wrongdoing, but from the purity of his offering. Isn't that exactly why some dislike you without cause? Because your authenticity highlights their compromise. History's greats carried this burden. Mother Teresa, the saint of Calcutta, served the poorest of the poor, yet was criticized harshly by those who could not comprehend her devotion. She once said, "If you are humble, nothing will touch you, neither praise nor disgrace, because you know what you are." Doesn't this echo your reality that no matter the rejection or criticism, your calling is immune because it is rooted not in human approval, but in divine appointment? And isn't it revealing that the very ones who attack often confirm your light more loudly than those who applaud? Nature, too, carries this truth. Fireflies glow naturally in the night, and while some creatures are drawn to their light, others flee because they fear what shines. Are you not like the firefly, carrying a luminescence you did not create, yet one that divides the atmosphere into those who can stand your glow and those who cannot? Matthew 5:14 reminds us, "Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden." If your light was meant to shine, how could you ever expect the darkness to remain comfortable in your presence? But we also see the cost of rejecting light in the story of Pharaoh. Though he witnessed plague after plague, his hardened heart refused to yield. Exodus 2:9 Kogendisadum records. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. Isn't this the same pattern in those who reject you for no reason? They are resisting not you, but the God who sent you. And what was Pharaoh's end? His armies drowned in the Red Sea, proving that resistance to God's chosen is always self-destruction. Does this not remind you that rejection is not your defeat, but their downfall? Science itself explains this tension. In physics, when a stronger magnetic field enters a weaker one, it disrupts the alignment of every particle around it. Is that not what happens when you walk into certain rooms? The atmosphere shifts, and spirits unprepared for your strength feel unsettled. Psychologists even affirm that humans often project their insecurities onto those who unconsciously expose them. Your mere presence acts like resonance. It either harmonizes with those who are aligned or shakes apart those who are not. Doesn't that clarify why dislike often comes without logic? It is not personal. It is vibrational. This truth is echoed even in ordinary stories. Clara, a cashier from a small town, once shared that she noticed co-workers avoiding her simply because she always greeted customers with unusual joy. Later, one admitted that her light made their own bitterness harder to justify. Clara laughed and said, "I realized then it wasn't me they disliked. It was the mirror I held up." Isn't that the very revelation you need, that rejection is often admiration twisted by insecurity? Psalm 118 contra 22 declares, "The stone which the builders refused will become the headstone of the corner." What if your rejection was not the end, but the positioning that proves you were always the cornerstone in God's architecture? The stones left in the quarry are often the strongest, carved and prepared for a foundation others cannot yet see. And when the building of destiny finally rises, who will deny that the one once rejected became the very stone that holds the structure together? Sorise. Chosen one, stop questioning why they dislike you. Stop crying over tables that pushed you away. Your rejection is your redirection. Your dismissal is your divine placement. You are not meant to be loved by everyone. You are meant to carry light. And light will always divide. Stand tall, because the very rejection you endured was heaven's loud announcement. You are chosen. You are marked. And you are unstoppable. Sign 4. You feel a strong need to help others. From the earliest moments of your life, you noticed that your heart felt heavier than others when someone was hurting. While many walked past pain as though it was invisible, you carried it as if it was your own. Have you not wondered why you could feel the silent tears of another? Even without words spoken, that is not weakness, it is divine wiring. Psalm 82:3 commands, "Defend the poor and fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy." Doesn't this reveal that the compassion swelling inside you is not an accident of personality, but the very voice of God calling you into action? And the longer you live, the clearer it becomes that this compassion has been the compass guiding your every decision. It is as if your soul refuses to let suffering pass unchallenged, because mercy is stitched into the very fabric of your spirit. Chosen ones are often gifted with empathy so deep it feels like an extra sense. You are not only aware of pain, you absorb it, sometimes to the point of exhaustion. And yet, does that not make you a reflection of Christ himself, who was described in Isaiah 53:4 as the one who hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows? When people mock you for caring too much, they fail to understand that this burden is proof of your anointing. Could it be that the weight of others' suffering is not meant to crush you, but to train you to carry responsibility for nations? For only those who have tasted the bitterness of another's wounds can intercede with true authority. And perhaps that is why your empathy feels so relentless. It is not just human emotion, it is divine preparation. This truth has echoed through the lives of history's great servants. Princess Diana, remembered as the people's princess, once said, "Carry out a random act of kindness with no expectation of reward, safe in the knowledge that one day someone might do the same for you." Was it not her compassion, even beyond her royal duty, that etched her name forever in the hearts of millions? And does her story not show you that when you are chosen, the impact of your kindness resounds far beyond what you imagine, even in the darkest corners of the earth? Compassion is what turned her from a figure of royalty into a global icon of mercy, and her memory remains proof that love outlives position. Doesn't this reveal that what flows from your heart can ripple into eternity? Music reveals this calling. In the famous hymn, "Abide with Me," the haunting line whispers, "When other helpers fail and comforts flee, a help of the helpless, oh, abide with me." Doesn't this lyric mirror your very heartbeat, that when others turn away, you remain, carrying burdens not your own, because your spirit is moved by a compassion greater than yourself? This is why the chosen cannot abandon others so easily. Their empathy becomes a living hymn, echoing heaven's melody through human hands. Each act of mercy becomes a stanza, each sacrifice a chorus, until your life itself is transformed into a sacred song of service. And perhaps, without realizing it, you have been singing this hymn with every unspoken prayer for someone else's deliverance. Proverbs 19:17 confirms, "He that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord, and that which he hath given will he pay him again." What if your giving was never loss but divine investment? Does this not show that every time you felt drained, heaven was already preparing the return? Compassion is not merely a human virtue, it is a divine transaction that opens heavenly windows over your life. What others call sacrifice, heaven records as seed. And one day, when harvest arrives, the very love you poured out will return multiplied, proving that nothing given in God's name is ever wasted. Galatians 6:9 encourage. And let us not be weary in doing well, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. Even Jesus himself withdrew to the mountains to rest, reminding us that compassion without boundaries can lead to collapse. Isn't it both humbling and liberating to know that your calling includes both helping others and protecting the vessel God gave you? Compassion is not meant to drain you, but to position you. When you embrace rest, you are not abandoning your mission, you are honoring the rhythm God designed for your soul. Doesn't this truth set you free from guilt? Knowing that rest is part of your obedience. So rise. Chosen one, do not despise the tears you cry for others, for they are rivers watering the seeds of your destiny. Do not curse your compassion, for it is the crown God placed on your heart. Help with boldness, love without fear, but rest when the Spirit calls you to pause. For you were chosen to be a well that never runs dry, not because of your strength, but because heaven itself refills you. Stand now, because the world is waiting for the compassion only you carry. And when you rise, your kindness will not just change lives, it will shift generations, leaving a legacy that cannot be erased. Sign 5. You've had close calls with death. There are moments in life when the thin veil between life and death has brushed against you, leaving you shaken yet still breathing. Perhaps it was a car accident where the wreckage should have been your coffin, or an illness that baffled doctors yet somehow released you back into the world. Have you not wondered why? When others did not make it through, you were spared. It was never coincidence, never luck. It was divine intervention. Psalm 91:11 proclaims, "For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways." Doesn't that stir your soul to realize that heaven's armies were already surrounding you, shielding you from what should have ended your story? And when you revisit those memories, don't you feel chills knowing that your survival was not just for you, but for the lives connected to your destiny? Your breath became a living testimony that God himself has declared, "Not yet." And he will 18 that too. Surviving near-death encounters is one of the most undeniable marks of the chosen. For destiny itself refuses to release you until your mission is complete. Jonah, thrown into the raging sea and swallowed by a great fish, should have died beneath the waves. Yet Jonah 2-6 records his cry, "The earth with her bars was about me forever, yet hast thou brought up my life from corruption. O Lord my God, does this not mirror your own survival, that when darkness thought it had swallowed you whole, God's mercy commanded the depths to spit you back into purpose, and when you rose from that pit, wasn't it as if your life had been reset with heaven's urgency? Every time death tried to hold you, grace broke the chains, reminding you that unfinished assignments cannot be buried. And doesn't that truth awaken you to live with a sharpened urgency, refusing to waste another moment? In the natural world, there are creatures that embody this truth. The butterfly, fragile and delicate, spends its earliest days trapped inside a cocoon that appears like a tomb. Who would guess that death-like stillness is the womb of transformation? Doesn't your survival feel the same, that what should have ended you became the very cocoon birthing a new version of you? Isaiah 25:8 declares, "He will swallow up death in victory, and the Lord God will wipe away tears from all faces." If even the fragile butterfly emerges from confinement into glory, why should you doubt that your close calls were the prelude to your rising? And the longer you live after these encounters, the more you realize that each escape reshaped you, stripped away the trivial, and refined your focus. Isn't it true that those moments forced you to value time, people, and purpose in ways you never did before? History warns us, however, through those who ignored their divine second chances. King Herod Agrippa, intoxicated by pride, accepted the people's praise as if he were a god. Acts 12:23 tells us, "Immediately the angel of the Lord smote him, because he did not give God the glory, and he was eaten of worms, and gave up the ghost." Isn't it terrifying that one who lived through so much power ended in such humiliation? Doesn't this remind you that surviving death is not just survival, it is a summons to live differently, to live for God's glory rather than personal pride? And doesn't Herod's story warn us that protection without gratitude becomes wasted mercy? Every second chance demands transformation, for God will not protect endlessly those who persist in rebellion. Isn't your survival, then, both mercy and mandate, a reminder that you are alive because heaven expects more from you? And do you not feel that purpose burning stronger after every survival? Paul, beaten, shipwrecked, and left for dead, still testified in 2 Corinthians 4:9, persecuted, but not forsaken, cast down, but not destroyed. His survival became his sermon. His scars became his evidence. Isn't that exactly what your life is saying now, that every near-death moment branded you with unshakable proof that God has a reason for your continued breath? Psychologists admit that survivors of near-death experiences often emerge with sharper clarity and renewed vision, as though their souls tasted eternity and returned with instructions. And when you reflect on your own survival, doesn't it feel as though your soul returned carrying secrets, urgency, and an unshakable sense that life cannot be lived casually anymore? Each scar became a megaphone, shouting to the world, purpose still lives here. The truth is this: if the grave could not claim you, then purpose still does. Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Your time was not over because your purpose was not complete. Each time death brushed past, heaven wrote in bold letters, "Not yet." And now you must ask yourself, why have you been kept alive when so many were not? Could it be because your mission carries the weight of generations? Could it be that your survival is not just about personal blessing, but about becoming the vessel through which others will find life? Doesn't that shift how you see every moment, that your existence is a trust, not just a chance? So rise. Chosen one, stop calling your survival luck and start calling it prophecy. Every bullet you dodged, every sickness you overcame, every accident you walked away from is heaven's declaration that your assignment is unstoppable. Do not waste the life preserved at such a high cost. Stand tall, for you are living proof that destiny commands death to step aside. The fact that you are still here is no accident. You are chosen, preserved, and unstoppable. And when you walk in this awareness, your very life becomes a defiance against hell itself, declaring, "You tried to end me, but God's hand kept me alive for glory." Thank you for watching. Sign 6. Doors open for you that shouldn't have. There have been moments in your life when doors opened that logic could never explain. Opportunities appeared, positions were offered, and breakthroughs came your way when you knew you were not the most qualified, the most experienced, or even the most prepared. Have you not marveled at those times, asking yourself, "Why me? It was not luck, it was favor. Revelation 3:8 declares, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. Isn't it astonishing to realize that heaven's hand turns the locks that no earthly key can? And when those doors swing wide, they are not just invitations, they are assignments. They are signals that God is writing a story bigger than your resume, bigger than your reputation, and bigger than anything the world could orchestrate. God's chosen often experience opportunities that others call impossible because the kingdom operates on divine architecture, not human merit. Think of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery. Yet Pharaoh himself declared in Genesis 41:40, Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Does this not mirror your journey, where betrayal and hardship should have buried you? Yet somehow those very trials positioned you for authority. And when Joseph walked into Pharaoh's court, was it not clear that the door was designed by heaven alone? Doesn't this make you see that when a door opens for you, it is not because of human endorsement, but because destiny demanded your arrival? Every pit, every prison became part of the blueprint that led to the palace. And doesn't that show you that even your darkest setbacks were secret corridors toward favor? In science, this truth finds resonance. In quantum physics, particles sometimes tunnel through barriers they logically should not be able to cross, a phenomenon known as quantum tunneling. Isn't that exactly what happens when doors open for you that should have stayed shut? By all calculations, you should have been blocked. Yet somehow you passed through. Isaiah 45:2 confirms this supernatural principle. I will go before thee, and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass, and cut in under the bars of iron. Could it be that your life has become living proof of spiritual physics, that barriers dissolve when heaven decrees your passage? Each time this happens, you are reminded that purpose bends the laws of probability. And when you walk through, isn't it clear that heaven's authority outranks earth's logic? But favor is never given for vanity. It is entrusted for purpose. Esther, a Jewish orphan, never should have become queen. But Esther 4:14 reminds us of Mordecai's words, Who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Doesn't that echo in your heart that your open doors are not accidents, but strategic placements for a greater cause? And just as Esther used her favor to save her people, could it be that the doors opening for you are not about your comfort, but about generations depending on your obedience? Favor is not about standing in palaces for admiration. It is about standing in palaces to shift history. And isn't that why you sense a weight every time a new opportunity comes? Knowing it carries more than just your name, it carries legacy. Sometimes, the proof of divine favor shows up in the quiet testimonies of ordinary lives. Michael, a janitor from a small town, once shared that a stranger unexpectedly paid for his vocational training. That single act opened the door for him to become a school counselor, guiding hundreds of young people toward brighter futures. He said, I knew it wasn't just kindness, it was God pushing me into a bigger room. Isn't that the essence of favor, that even those society overlooks become carriers of destiny when heaven decides to intervene? And doesn't Michael's story remind you that favor is not reserved for titles, wealth, or status, but for hearts that God chooses? Each ordinary testimony becomes extraordinary when God writes the script, and perhaps your own life is preparing to echo the same. Yet Scripture also shows us the danger of wasting favor. King Solomon, endowed with wisdom and access beyond measure, allowed his heart to be turned by idolatry. 1 Kings 11:11 records God's verdict. For as much as this is done of thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee. Isn't it sobering that even the wisest man lost doors that God himself had opened, simply because he misused them? Doesn't this warn you that favor without faithfulness can become a curse? Open doors are not just privileges, they are responsibilities carrying eternal weight. Every opportunity demands accountability before heaven. And doesn't Solomon's fall serve as a mirror to remind us that favor is never permanent unless stewarded with obedience? The truth is, doors that open supernaturally are blueprints of heaven's design, like gates in the architecture of destiny. In psychology, we speak of liminal spaces, thresholds where transformation happens. Aren't your open doors those thresholds, where you step from one season into another, forever changed? And in music, resonance occurs when frequencies align perfectly. Doesn't favor work the same way, creating divine alignment between your calling and heaven's timing? Each door you walk through is not random but rhythmic, part of a symphony God is conducting. And when you begin to see doors as heavenly architecture, doesn't it change how you walk, no longer timid, but with reverence and courage? So rise, chosen one, stop doubting the doors that open for you, and stop calling them coincidence. They are heaven's decree that you are meant to walk where others cannot. Use this favor with holy courage. Don't shrink. Don't waste it. Don't trade it for comfort. Stand tall. For you are not just walking through doors, you are stepping into assignments that will shake generations. Your life is proof that when God decides, no wall can hold you back. No gate can stay shut. The door is open, walk through it with power, and when you do, the sound of your steps will echo through eternity as a chosen one who honored heaven's invitation. Sign 7. You were rejected by people close to you. Few wounds cut deeper than rejection from those you trusted most. When friends betray you, when family despises you, when voices you expected to defend, you become the very ones to wound you. Doesn't it feel like your soul has been pierced? Yet isn't it strange that rejection, though painful, often becomes the very road that carries you toward your destiny? Psalm 27:10 declares, "When my father and my mother forsake me, then the Lord will take me up." Isn't it breathtaking to realize that the very moment human love fails, divine love steps in to lift you higher? And could it be that their rejection was never the end of you, but the push that heaven used to send you into purpose? Every tear shed in loneliness became the water that nourished the seeds of your calling. And every wound became proof that you were meant to rise above ordinary paths. Joseph's story shouts this truth louder than any other. His own brothers hated him, stripped him of his coat, and threw him into a pit, intending to erase his future. Yet Genesis 50:20 reveals Joseph's triumphant words, "But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save many people alive." Doesn't this echo in your own life that what others meant for evil has been turned into the very catalyst of your calling? And when Joseph finally stood in Pharaoh's palace, was it not the rejection of his brothers that had positioned him there? Doesn't this prove that rejection is not your burial ground, but your launch pad? His coat of many colors was torn, but his destiny robe was untouchable, woven by God himself. And when Joseph rose, his very presence became redemption for the family that once despised him. Christ himself bore the sting of rejection. John 1:11 testifies, "He came unto his own, and his own received him not. Imagine the heartbreak of the Savior of the world being despised by the very ones he came to redeem. Yet that rejection did not stop him from carrying his cross, nor did it cancel his mission of salvation. Doesn't this remind you that if even Jesus endured betrayal and hatred from those closest to him, then your rejection is not a sign of weakness but of divine identification? And isn't it powerful to know that your scars connect you to the same suffering that led to resurrection power? The rejection that nailed him to the cross became the door that opened eternal life. And doesn't that prove your own rejection could also become the bridge to your resurrection season? In modern times, rejection has forged greatness. The famous inventor, Thomas Edison, after being told by teachers that he was too stupid to learn anything, went on to create inventions that shaped human history. He once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Doesn't this show you that rejection is not a verdict but a redirection? And if Edison could turn ridicule into relentless innovation, how much more can you? Chosen one, turn pain into purpose under the hand of God. Every insult against him became fuel for perseverance, and every closed door became a workshop for miracles. Isn't it the same with you, that rejection has only sharpened your creativity and resilience, preparing you to shock the very people who once doubted you? Art and music echo the cry of rejection and redemption. In Beethoven's Symphony No. San, the Eroica, the soaring notes were first dedicated to Napoleon as a hero. But when Napoleon betrayed those ideals, Beethoven tore the dedication in rage. Yet from betrayal came brilliance. The symphony became a timeless anthem of triumph. Doesn't this mirror your story, that out of the ashes of disappointment, a masterpiece can still emerge? And perhaps your life itself is becoming God's symphony of resilience. The very notes of betrayal that once sounded like chaos are being restructured into a harmony of victory. Isn't it astonishing that betrayal can break the man but build the masterpiece? But Scripture also warns us through those who allowed rejection to destroy them. King Saul, once anointed, became consumed by jealousy of David, and his insecurity drove him into ruin. 1 Samuel 18-9 says, "And Saul eyed David from that day and forward." Isn't it tragic that Saul, who should have been a mentor, allowed rejection and fear to turn him into an enemy of God's plan? Doesn't this remind you that how you respond to rejection will determine whether you rise or fall? For some, rejection becomes poison, but for the chosen, it becomes power. Saul's throne was lost because he let bitterness devour his soul, while David's throne was established because he endured rejection with worship. And doesn't this prove that your response can transform rejection into royalty? Isaiah 53:3 declares of Christ, "He is despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows, and acquainted with grief." Does this not speak directly to you that rejection is not a curse but a crown? It identifies you with the greatest story ever told, proving you are walking the narrow path of those set apart for glory. And in psychology, rejection is often described as social pain, activating the same brain circuits as physical injury. Isn't that why it hurts so much? Because it is meant to. Yet doesn't the very intensity of the pain show the intensity of the purpose it protects? When rejection scorches your heart, it forges resilience, carving strength into your soul like fire, refining gold. Doesn't that transform the meaning of your scars? From shame into signals of destiny, so rise. Chosen one, do not curse the doors that closed in your face, nor mourn the hands that pushed you away. Their rejection was your redirection. Their betrayal was your unveiling. You were never meant to be celebrated by everyone. You were meant to be positioned by heaven. Stand tall, because every no from man was a louder yes from God. You are chosen. You are marked. And your purpose cannot be stopped by rejection. And when you rise from this, your very life will silence the voices that once tried to bury you. Because what was meant to break you has only proven how unbreakable you are. Sign 8. You have a unique gift. From the very beginning of your life, there was something unusual about you. Maybe you sang melodies as a child that silenced the room, or wrote words that carried more weight than your age could explain. Perhaps you led games on the playground with a natural authority, or created works of art that seemed to spring from a place far beyond your imagination. Did you ever wonder why these abilities surfaced so early? As if they were stitched into your very DNA. That was not a chance, it was a sign. James 1:17 declares, "Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights." Doesn't this reveal that your gift was never simply talent, but divine evidence that heaven has already marked you for purpose? And if it was given from above, doesn't it mean it must also return to God as worship? Every spark of creativity, every natural skill, every early glimpse of brilliance was not random, it was heaven whispering, "You are chosen, and this is the seed of your calling." The Dinkrust, your gift is not just decoration, it is destiny. Joseph had dreams as a young boy, dreams that set him apart and eventually provoked his brother's envy. Genesis 37:9 records, "And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it to his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more." Doesn't it strike you that the very dreams which made Joseph hated were the same dreams that became his pathway to leadership in Egypt? And isn't that the same with you, that what others mocked, doubted, or dismissed is the very seed of your greatness? The gift is the architecture of your calling, the blueprint heaven sketched inside you long before others could understand it. And, when used rightly, doesn't it have the power to shift not only your life but the destiny of everyone connected to you? Every too much, every too different, every too intense spoken against you was really a confirmation that your gift was larger than the small boxes others tried to place you in. In nature, there are hidden illustrations of this truth. The pearl begins as nothing more than irritation inside an oyster. Yet through time it becomes treasure. Doesn't that mirror your story, that what felt like a strange, inconvenient difference in you was really the formation of a gift meant to shine with beauty later? 1 Peter 4:10 says, "As every man hath received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of God." Isn't it stunning to realize that your uniqueness is not a burden but a treasure in disguise, cultivated through pressure and time, just as pearls remain hidden until revealed? Your gift may stay concealed for years until the right moment calls it forth. And when that moment arrives, doesn't the world suddenly recognize what heaven already knew? The very pressure that once hurt you became the process that polished you, and what once looked like pain revealed itself as priceless. History shows us what happens when gifts are surrendered to God versus when they are corrupted. Lucifer himself was once the anointed cherub, created with beauty and musical brilliance. Ezekiel 28:13 describes him as covered in every precious stone, with tabrets and pipes prepared in the day that thou wast created. Yet his pride twisted the gift. And Isaiah 14:12 records his tragic fall. "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. Isn't that a chilling reminder that the gift alone is not enough? It must be aligned with humility and obedience. And doesn't Lucifer's fall warn us that gifts without surrender can lead to destruction, while gifts consecrated to God become instruments of eternal impact? Every time you are tempted to use your gift for self-glory, remember that pride corrupts while surrender sanctifies. Isn't this proof that your gift must not only be recognized, but also refined by obedience? Romans 12:6 reminds us, having then gifts differ according to the grace that is given to us. Whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith. Your gift is not about applause, fame, or spotlight. It is about service. It is about letting heaven use your unique sound, your unique voice, your unique hands to heal, guide, or inspire. And when you finally stop hiding your gift, doesn't it feel as if a river has been released, flowing not just for you but for everyone around you? Isn't it clear that gifts hoarded rust, but gifts given transform? Every act of surrender expands the reach of your gift, turning personal ability into divine impact. And perhaps your hesitation has been the very thing delaying breakthroughs for others, because someone's freedom is waiting on your courage to use what God gave you. So rise, chosen one. Stop burying your treasure as if it were nothing. Your gift is not an accident. It is a weapon, a tool, a beacon. Do not let fear silence it. Do not let rejection bury it. Do not let pride corrupt it. Stand tall and surrender it fully to the one who gave it to you. For your gift is not meant to die with you. It is meant to outlive you, to echo in eternity, and to prove that God's hand was always upon you. The time is now. Release your gift and watch purpose explode. And when you finally use it for His glory, your life will become an anthem louder than any applause, an eternal testimony that you were chosen not just to have a gift, but to wield it for the kingdom. Sign 9. You faced unfair setbacks. Life has hit you with storms you did not deserve, losses that tore through your heart, delays that crushed your timeline, betrayals that shattered your trust. Haven't there been nights when you whispered, "Why me?" as if the universe was conspiring against your joy? Yet, what if every setback was not sabotage but strategy? Not punishment, but preparation. Romans 8:28 declares, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to His purpose." Doesn't this reveal that even when everything feels unfair, God is weaving threads of destiny into a tapestry you cannot yet see? And could it be that the pain you called failure was actually the foundation of your strength? Every disappointment carved resilience into your soul. Every heartbreak deepened your capacity for compassion. And every delay sharpened your vision for what truly matters. Scripture is filled with chosen ones who endured brutal setbacks only to be elevated later. Job lost everything in a single sweep: wealth, health, family. Yet Job 23:10 proclaims, "But He knoweth the way that I take when He hath tried me. I shall come forth as gold." Doesn't this sound like your life, where losses refined you instead of defining you? Joseph was thrown into prison on false accusations. David was hunted through deserts. Paul was beaten and left for dead. And yet, isn't it undeniable that every valley became the very classroom where their character was forged? Doesn't this remind you that your pain is not wasted? It is shaping the architecture of your purpose. Every injustice became chisels in the hands of God. sculpting you into someone unshakable. And isn't it true that your authority today comes not from ease, but from endurance? In the world of science, setbacks are not always endings. In physics, the concept of potential energy shows us that being pressed down often means a greater force is building to propel upward. Doesn't that mirror your setbacks, that the very push against you was storing momentum for your next breakthrough? Isaiah 61:3 promises that God gives beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Doesn't that shift your perspective, that ashes themselves are raw material for beauty? And mourning is the soil where joy will be planted. The more you were pressed, the more you were prepared for an acceleration others won't understand. Just like a bow must be pulled backward before launching an arrow forward, your life has been stretched so that destiny could send you flying into places you never imagined. History itself offers sobering warnings of those who mishandled their setbacks. King Saul, after losing favor with God, allowed insecurity to consume him. Instead of using rejection as a chance to repent and grow, he spiraled into paranoia and destruction. 1 Samuel 15:26 records Samuel's words to him, "Thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord hath rejected thee from being king over Israel." Isn't it tragic that a throne was lost? Not because of one mistake, but because Saul refused to see setbacks as set up for change. Doesn't his story warn us that setbacks must be embraced as invitations to transformation, not excuses for bitterness? His downfall shows us that those who resist growth in seasons of loss end up trapped in cycles of decay. Isn't this the very warning you need, that what breaks some can build you, if you let God rewrite the ending? In ordinary life, people testify of setbacks becoming divine setups. Laura, a single mother from a small town, once shared that after losing her job, she thought her future was over. But in that forced pause, she began baking bread at home, and within months, her small kitchen turned into a thriving bakery that now employs dozens of women in her community. She said, "If I hadn't been fired, I would have never found my purpose." Isn't that powerful, that what felt like an unfair loss was heaven's redirection? And doesn't Laura's story whisper to you that your own heartbreaks and delays are not dead ends but detours into destiny? Every loss of hers became a seed planted into something greater. And doesn't that prove that God can turn even the dust of defeat into bread that feeds many? 2 Corinthians 4:17 declares, "For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory." Doesn't that shift everything? The trial that felt unbearable was temporary, but the strength, wisdom, and authority it birthed will last forever. And in architecture, setbacks are not flaws, but intentional recesses that give strength to the design, allowing light to flow in unexpected ways. Could it be that your life's setbacks were heaven's chisels, carving beauty into your story that only eternity will fully reveal? Every cut, every crack, every delay is not the ruin of the structure, but the refinement of its masterpiece. And when the building finally stands complete, won't everyone see that the very setbacks were necessary strokes in the hand of the architect? So rise. Chosen one, stop labeling your past as wasted time. Every heartbreak was a hammer shaping resilience. Every loss was a lesson, sharpening wisdom. Every delay was divine timing, positioning you for glory. What you thought was unfair was the secret favor of God, rearranging your steps. Stand tall, because your setbacks are no longer chains, they are catapults. You are chosen, and nothing in your story is wasted. Walk forward with confidence, because your scars are proof that you were built for victory. And when you rise, your life will testify that the stone once rejected has become the cornerstone of something unshakable. Sign 10. You've always wanted to know God. Even in childhood, when others chased laughter, games, or early ambitions, something in you felt an unusual pull, an invisible magnet tugging your heart toward God. While classmates spoke of fame, riches, or fleeting thrills, your spirit craved something deeper. Haven't you felt that mysterious hunger? That quiet voice that would not leave you alone? Jeremiah 1-5 thunders this truth. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee. Doesn't this awaken your soul that your yearning for him was never random, but the evidence of a covenant written before your first breath? And doesn't it make sense now that your appetite for his presence was the seal of heaven resting on you since the beginning? Every question you asked as a child, every silent prayer in the night, was proof that God himself was drawing you close. And isn't it true that this pull gave you comfort, even when you couldn't explain it to anyone else? This desire has always set you apart, often leaving you misunderstood. Friends may have mocked you for being too serious, or family may have wondered why your eyes always drifted upward instead of chasing what they chased. Yet isn't it true that even rejection couldn't kill the longing inside you? Psalm 42:1 captures it perfectly. As the hart panteth after the water brooks, so panteth my soul after thee, O God. Doesn't that verse feel like the soundtrack of your life, that when others thirsted for applause, your soul thirsted for the living water? And what could explain such hunger except the hand of God marking you for something eternal? The thirst itself became your compass, keeping you from being lost in the distractions others drowned in. And doesn't that explain why you always felt different, as if your life carried a hidden assignment? History testifies to many who carried this longing from a young age. Saint Augustine, one of the greatest thinkers of the early church, confessed in his Confessions, "Our heart is restless until it rests in you." Doesn't his admission echo your own restless nights and your own longing for something beyond the noise of the world? And isn't it astonishing that the same hunger that stirred a child centuries ago is alive in you now, proving that divine longing transcends time, culture, and generation? Perhaps your restlessness was never weakness, it was heaven's whisper to your soul that you were made for more. And doesn't Augustine's life prove that even after wandering far, hunger will always lead you home? Your restlessness is not punishment, it is prophecy pointing toward your true dwelling. Art and music have captured this holy yearning. In Handel's Messiah, the stirring line bursts forth, "And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together." Doesn't this lyric mirror the cry of your own heart, that since childhood you've been waiting, yearning, desperate to see his glory revealed, and each time you felt chills in his presence? Wasn't that the echo of eternity reminding you that you were created for communion with him? The longing was not an interruption to your life, it was the melody of your soul aligning with heaven's symphony. And doesn't this prove that every chosen life is itself a song, tuned to resonate with eternity? Your heartstrings have always vibrated with this sacred resonance. And perhaps that explains why worldly noise never satisfied you. It was never the right frequency. Scripture affirms that this hunger is more than feeling, it is destiny. Matthew 20 promises, "Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled." Isn't that breathtaking that your longing itself is the guarantee of your filling? And John 6:44 adds, No man can come to me, except the Father which hath sent me to draw him. Doesn't that confirm that it was never you seeking him first, it was him pulling you close? Doesn't this transform your entire life story, that the attraction you felt was proof of his claim over you? Proof that he chose you long before you chose him? Every moment of yearning was not wasted. It was training, stretching, preparing your heart to carry his presence. And isn't it incredible that the hunger itself is evidence that God has already begun the filling in ordinary lives? This truth shines. David, a farmer's son from a forgotten village, once shared that as a boy he would sneak away from chores just to sit in the silence of an empty chapel. He said, "I didn't even know how to pray, but I knew he was there." Isn't that the kind of longing you felt, that inexplicable pull to his presence, even when you didn't know the words? Doesn't this show that God marks his chosen with hunger before he crowns them with purpose? And isn't it clear now that such hunger was never coincidence, it was destiny's fingerprint etched on your soul? Even when life tried to bury it under responsibilities, the flame inside refused to die out. And doesn't that flame still burn within you, waiting for you to fully embrace it? Isaiah 40:9 reassures you, "Behold, I have graved thee upon the palms of my hands, thy walls are continually before me." Can you grasp that even before you sought him? If your name was already inscribed on his hands, doesn't that make every moment of yearning holy? Every unanswered question sacred? Every tear of longing part of your consecration? The desire itself was evidence of ownership. The hunger itself was a prophecy. And isn't it overwhelming to know that the God of eternity engraved your very existence as a permanent reminder that you belong to him? Every time you felt forgotten, heaven whispered back, "I have never lost sight of you. The Sat, the Send, the Tram, the Tend, so rise." Chosen one, if these signs echo your story, know this: you were chosen before you were born. You are not forgotten. You are not random. You are set apart. Stand tall in your calling, for your hunger has always been your evidence. Step boldly into your purpose, for the God who drew you as a child is the same God who now sends you forth as a vessel of his glory. The time for hesitation is over. The longing in your heart was heaven's invitation. Now it is your moment to answer. And when you rise, the hunger that once set you apart will become the fire that sets the world ablaze with his glory. Chosen one, now that the veil has been lifted and the 10 signs revealed, do you see the pattern of your own life? Every early battle, every rejection, every unique gift, every close call, every hunger for God, it was never a coincidence. It was a map of destiny etched into your soul long before the world knew your name. Jeremiah 29:11 assures us, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end." Isn't it undeniable that every trial and triumph has been pointing you toward that expected end? And isn't it powerful to realize that even your darkest moments were still being woven into a masterpiece of purpose? Every scar has become a chapter of your testimony, and every delay has only intensified the beauty of God's timing. Think of it when you faced hardships as a child. It was training, not tragedy. When you felt like an outsider, it was separation, not abandonment. When death tried to take you, it was preservation, not luck. When rejection crushed your heart, it was redirection, not ruin. And when gifts began to stir inside you, they were never hobbies but holy signals. Doesn't your own story shout that you are not ordinary, not forgotten, but chosen? Each twist and turn was like scaffolding in the architecture of your destiny, temporary but necessary to hold the structure until it was ready to stand. And when the final unveiling comes, won't it be clear that even the setbacks were sacred steps forward? The Bible overflows with witnesses who walked this same path. Moses, hidden in a basket as an infant, was chosen to part seas. Esther, orphaned and overlooked, was chosen to save a nation. David, scorned as the youngest, was chosen to carry the crown. And you, yes, you, have been marked by the same fingerprints of heaven. Romans 8:30 proclaim, moreover, whom he did predestinate, whom he also called, and whom he called, whom he also justified, and whom he justified, whom he also glorified. Isn't it overwhelming to realize that your life is part of this unbroken chain of the chosen? And doesn't it strengthen your resolve to know that you walk the same road of those who changed history forever? Every name in Scripture proves that God delights in raising the unlikely, the overlooked, and the underestimated. And doesn't that sound exactly like your story? Creation itself testifies. Stars burn not for themselves but to light the darkness. Rivers flow not for themselves but to quench thirsty lands. Doesn't that reveal your truth as well, that you were never meant to live for yourself, but to shine, to serve, to pour out, to reflect the glory of the one who sent you? Mountains stand immovable, not for their own pride, but to remind the earth of stability and strength. Doesn't that align with your calling to be a living monument of God's faithfulness in unstable times? All of creation is preaching a sermon. Chosen ones do not exist for themselves. They exist to transform the world around them. And isn't your life becoming the same sermon written not with ink, but with fire? So hear this final word. You were chosen before you were born. Ephesians 1:4 declares, according as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love. Does that not ignite your spirit that even before the stars were hung in place, your name was already written in the mind of God? You are not an accident. You are not random. You are the manifestation of an eternal plan. And doesn't that shift your entire identity, that you are not here to merely exist, but to manifest the kingdom in your generation? You are the evidence of prophecy fulfilled, the vessel of a divine blueprint. And when you grasp this truth, isn't it impossible to walk the same way you did before? Rise now. Chosen one, do not shrink back into fear. Do not bury the signs under doubt. Do not trade your crown for comfort. Stand tall. Step boldly. And embrace the destiny only you can fulfill. The world is waiting. Heaven is watching. And history is leaning forward to see what you will do. You are chosen. You are marked. And you are unstoppable. The 10 signs are not just reminders. They are your marching orders. Go forth, for your time is now. And when you rise, your life will not only silence the lies of the enemy, it will resound like a trumpet in eternity, declaring, this is what happens when a chosen one stands. Chosen ones. After walking through these 10 undeniable signs, can you see how your childhood was never ordinary? Every struggle, every rejection, every strange hunger for something greater, it was all evidence that heaven had already marked you from the very beginning. You were not random. You were not forgotten. You were chosen before you even knew his name. Your story is not just survival, it is prophecy. The fingerprints of God are all over your past, your present, and your future. And when you look back now, doesn't it feel as though even the darkest nights were secretly wrapped in divine light? Every scar has become a sentence in the book of your calling. Every tear has watered the soil of your destiny, and every trial has carved deeper roots into your faith. And now, you stand at a crossroads. Will you step fully into the calling that has been shouting over your life since childhood, or will you bury what God has already confirmed through years of signs? Romans 8:30 reminds us, whom he called, then he also justified, and whom he justified, then he also glorified. That glory is waiting for you. Chosen one, don't let fear, doubt, or distraction silence the truth of who you are. Every second you delay is a moment stolen from the impact you were meant to have. Doesn't it stir your spirit to know that heaven is waiting for your yes? And isn't it time to trade hesitation for holy boldness and doubt for destiny? If this message has awakened something in your spirit, declare it boldly in the comments. I am chosen. Share this video so that other chosen ones can recognize the signs in their own lives. Don't forget to like this message and subscribe to the channel so you never miss what God is revealing in this season. Your words matter. Your engagement matters, because each declaration strengthens the collective voice of those rising in faith. Isn't it powerful that even a single comment can become a public testimony of God's work in your life? When you share, you become a messenger. When you subscribe, you become a witness. And when you testify, you become a living prophecy in motion. To everyone who has supported through super thanks, or simply by watching, sharing, and praying, you are deeply appreciated. Whether or not you give financially, your presence here is a blessing. And together we give glory to God for what He is doing. Doesn't it prove something profound that support is not measured only in coins, but in faithfulness, prayer, and the willingness to walk this journey side by side? Every act of encouragement, whether spoken or silent, becomes part of the fabric God is weaving through this message. And isn't it humbling to know that we are all threads in the same divine tapestry, each of us playing a role in bringing light into dark places? And finally, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May His face shine upon you. May His favor surround you. And may His Spirit remind you daily that you were chosen from the start. Walk boldly, chosen one, for the world is waiting for the manifestation of who you truly are. And when you rise, may your steps echo like thunder against the lies of the enemy. May your words carry the fragrance of heaven, and may your life shine as a living sermon, written not on paper, but on hearts. This is not the end of your story. It is the awakening of your assignment. And isn't it time for you to stand, chosen one, and walk into the fullness of your purpose with fire in your soul?